And 747 usually has access to the best fishing spots at the falls, unless 856 is here. And if you want to know more about, these individual bears, you're curious about to see more photos of them, what they looked like in the past, just go to Katmai's website. You can and look for the ebook section. You can also find a direct link to that page by scrolling down to just above the comments on explore.org. If you're watching the bear cam there, and you can find the link to the Bears of Brooks River ebook. You can download that, and that's the most comprehensive guide to the life history of all of these bears that we see here. Competition, challenge, growth, learning. We've been talking about those things this evening. A little bit, and we'll take a break from the bears at the falls. Look downstream quickly, because our so-called courting pair is coming back. The female is moving, to the left side of your screen, standing on the rock right now. The adult male, that big 856, most dominant bear on the river, is standing downstream of her. And again, courting is a process where the male tries to habituate the female to his presence. For the rest of the year, he's really a threat to her. It's a big dominant bear. Can obviously inflict a lot of punishment on her if he happened to attack her. So, bears are very wary of one another. When you see this giant bear that's maybe, a third larger or more larger than you want to keep your distance. So it does take a long time, and in many cases, for the female to get used to the presence of the adult male before she gives him the opportunity to mate. And this is fairly typical courting behavior. The male just following the female incessantly. And I want to turn back to the waterfall real quick. Again, there's a lot happening tonight. 402 caught another fish, and that cub was able to take a little bit of fish away from her. It looks like almost half of that. So we'll watch this. Again, these are fairly large fish, 4 to 7 pounds on average. Its sibling, though, maybe is just a little too unsure of if it can hold its ground on against the force of that water. So it's sitting on the bank there. And siblings don't share food either. There's a lot of competition within the litter. There's competition for mother's milk. Doesn't seem like all of the teats on a female bear will produce milk at the same rate. Oh, and this should be interesting. I thought maybe 775, the bear closest to me here, might walk up and try to steal that fish from that cub, but it looks like he's going to try to maybe avoid that. So maybe that bear, that cub on the waterfall eating the fish, being just a little bit more aggressive, feeling, having the confidence to go out into the water, might grow just a little bit faster than its sibling. And that certainly can give it a competitive advantage when it is weaned. It might be just a little bit larger, a little bit more skilled at catching fish. And these cubs, again, are in their second summer. They're what we call yearling cubs. This may be their last summer with this female. And if you're just tuning in, my name is Mike Fitz. I'm a park ranger at Katmai National Park and Preserve. I'm on the Alaska Peninsula, about 300 miles southwest of Anchorage. And I'm standing on a wildlife viewing platform, an elevated platform about 10 feet off of the ground at world-famous Brooks Falls. If you've ever seen a photograph of a bear catching a salmon in its mouth, it probably was taken right here. And it could have been this bear that we're watching. She's been standing on the lip of the waterfall for over a decade. we have some bears here that we haven't seen at the waterfall very much this year. Like this adult male, this is number 634. He is nicknamed Popeye. Kind of got that nickname because he's big, furry forearms, especially when he was a younger bear, a subadult bear. Those are the immature bears that are between 2.5 and 5.5 years old or so. They're the teenagers of the bear world. And of course he's a mature adult male right now. He doesn't quite have the furry forearms that he used to, but he still has very blonde ears, slightly upturned muzzle, a fairly prominent shoulder hump. And so he can be distinctive because of those features. He's not, at the top of the hierarchy. He's kind of mid-ranking for an adult male. Most bears don't attain the size of bears like 747 in the plunge pool or 856 who's moving down river following that female. Most of them are, again, ranked just a little bit lower, like 634 Popeye right here. He will also steal fish. Occasionally you'll see that happen. Each one of these bears has a unique sort of suite of fishing techniques that they like to utilize. They'll all utilize sitting or standing and waiting. They're waiting for the fish to come to them. And that, you can see, was just that strategy has proven successful for 634 here. Downstream of the waterfall, they may try to run after the fish. That expends a lot more energy, but many bears can't compete with these really big adult males up at Brooks Falls for access to fishing spots, so they are often relegated to chasing fish downstream. But if you are big enough and strong enough to maintain your position at Brooks Falls, then you can afford to sit here and wait for the fish to come to you. Even though they're so large and the water is fairly cold, I'd be surprised right now if it was over 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Rapidly, they're fairly large animals, as you know. They also have a fairly high volume compared to their surface area, so there's just not a lot of exposed body. The larger an object is, the longer it takes to cool down or heat up. So bears can sit in the water for hours and really not suffer the same effects that I would if I was in the water without something like a wetsuit or a dry suit. Just after a few minutes in this cold water, I would start to shiver, and a few minutes after that, I might start to lose a lot of my energy. But bears are very large animals, so they're well adapted to handling this cold water. Some of the stories that you can follow here as well with these bears has to do with, well, how they grow. You can see that their story of growth and maturity. You can also see their stories of aging as well. And these two bears, I think, kind of give you examples of both of those stories. The one in the foreground is number 32. He's nicknamed Chunk. He has a kind of a big butt, and he's always had that since he was a young bear. When he was first identified, he might come to the waterfall, but he was always just hovering on the fringes. Wasn't able to compete with the real big males up at Brooks Falls. But now he's grown, he's maturing. I think he still has some room to grow. And we'll get back to his story in just a little bit, because I think we're going to watch this. Looks like number 775 Lefty is going to try to steal the fish that an older adult female just caught, number 410. Or maybe he's going to get distracted, it seems like, by the school of fish that he's chasing downriver. And this is one of those things that, when you're